replenished. And what would happen was the piece would slowly disappear. The more and more people came into the museum and took the candy, the faster it would disappear. Now, some of the pieces, like Revenge, was set in an ideal weight. It was to always stay 325 pounds. And so, at the end of every day, or at the beginning of every day, the registrars would come in and they would dump more candy. And they would have these rake-like forms to kind of keep that pristine rectangle. The other thing about that piece is that who owns it? And so what happens is when someone buys a piece of art like Felix Gonzalez Torres, what he tries to do is he tries to think about this idea of art as a kind of commodity. And so here, when we go into a museum, we might be able to go to the gift shop and buy ourselves a print of that beautiful Degas, but we don't get to take that away from the museum with us, right? So with the Felix Gonzalez Torres, we do. We get to take that candy. And then, of course, those people who grew up in the Catholic faith are sort of aware of this idea of taking in the body of Christ with the wafer and with the wine. And so again, here, this idea, this association with the body, how we take in the body using the candy as a kind of metaphor for that can become a very powerful thing. Now, Felix Gonzalez Torres was actually famous for saying that he did not fall to earth from outer space. And so, now, Felix Gonzalez Torres is doing not at all what Bernini was doing here with Apollo and Daphne. These are two completely different things, right? Both artists, I believe, their intent was to please and to instruct, but they do it in very different ways. This was a piece by Bernini, and it's Apollo and Daphne. It's that story where Apollo touches Daphne and she turns into a tree. This is a piece that lives near the Galleria Borghese in Rome. And to look at it is a pretty amazing, powerful thing. These leaves have been told when the conservators clean it, make a sound like a tuning fork. Now, this sculpture has survived wars and all of Italian bureaucracy and all of its craziness over the last several hundred years. And it's a powerful testament to a person's dedication to craft. But it works a little bit differently, but it inspires a similar kind of awe as Felix Gonzalez Torres for me. And so with Felix Gonzalez Torres, he's building on an older tradition, the tradition of minimalism, this idea of breaking art down into its most essential parts, the cube, the square, the triangle, the floor, the building. And these are pieces that, for the most part, people like Carl Andre and the artist Tony Smith, they were very butch, very like tough guys. They wore boots and jeans, and they were very, very tough. And so this is a piece that's steel. It's 6 feet by 6 feet by 6 feet. It lives there in Washington, D.C. You should go and check it out. That's pretty great. But what Felix Gonzalez Torres aimed to do was to insert a different kind of feeling, a different kind of affection, a queering of minimalism as a way of thinking about it in terms of how we as human beings deal with it and relate to it and understand it. And then, like I said before, he deals with this idea of ownership. Who owns it? The institution that owns Revenge owns a slip of paper that says that they are able to present it, and then it has a series of parameters. For example, it's replenished daily. And one of the things that Felix was really interested in was this idea of private space versus personal space. We talked about this a tiny little bit with Catherine Opie before with that self-portrait / pervert, this way of talking about things that are private versus public. And then, of course, with Felix Gonzalez Torres in the 1980s and 1990s, in many states, the simple act of being gay was illegal. Gay sex was illegal. And so here we see this image. It's called Untitled Billboard of an Empty Bed. He's taking a very private space, our beds, and then taking them and putting them into the public sphere. Here we see it on a street there in New York. And it's a beautiful, intimate image. How many people, other than your husband or your wife or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your kids, have seen your bed unmade? Not a lot, right? It's a private, intimate thing. This is another one of my favorite pieces of all time. This is a piece called Go-Go Dancing Platform. Again, this idea of private versus personal. And so here we see a go-go dancer in a museum. Who was not to like about a go-go dancer in a museum? Usually a very well-built, very attractive man. He's usually dancing, and he's got headphones on, and you can't hear what he's listening to, and so it's kind of a private party. Now, of course, there's this other thing called the male gaze, this idea that the man sort of looks at the woman. And here, Felix Gonzalez Torres has taken that old art trope, this idea of the male gaze, and he's tweaking it a tiny little bit, especially thinking about taking gay culture from inside the club, taking it and putting it inside the museum. And with this piece, there's also this thing where the dancer is aware of you. It's not like a movie or a television show. This person is in the space with you, and it can really make for a pretty interesting experience. And then, like I said, he would use these tropes, these minimalist tropes, to build these pieces. And so here, these pieces, you can take them away with you, these individual printed sheets. And so this is a piece called Untitled, and people will come into the museum and they'll roll it up and they'll take it home with them. And so in part, people can walk away and they can have almost the same experience that they have in the museum, except maybe a little bit different. And for me, those pieces are pieces that I take and then I keep them with me. These live inside my studio or in my office. They've moved with me as I've moved. And I make a little note on them to kind of remember where I was when I got them. Kind of like a little tiny bit of a pilgrimage for me. Now back to this idea called Perfect Lovers. This is a piece that Felix Gonzalez Torres did in 1991, a very productive year for him. And it's a piece called Perfect Lovers, and this is the way it begins. 2 clocks purchased from a store, identical clocks, and then they're set to the exact same minute and second, and then the batteries are clipped. And then from there, like all clocks, they slowly change, they slowly lose time. We've all had that experience where we've had that perfect person who's a perfect partner, and then sometimes we kind of fall out of sync, sometimes we're a little out of sync. And then part of the parameters for this project are that if the battery should die, the battery should be replaced, the clock's re-synced, and then set loose again. So it's a very poetic, very simple, very straightforward way of talking about this. And then also in terms of thinking about loss, in terms of thinking about how one person eventually dies. One person is eventually lost. And so in 92, Felix Gonzalez Torres lost his partner, Ross, to the AIDS epidemic, and then maybe 4 or 5 years later, Felix died. But before he died, he talked about this piece, and he talked about how time is something that scares me, or used to. And he says, this piece made with 2 clocks was the scariest thing I've ever done. I wanted to face it. I wanted those 2 clocks right in front of me, ticking. And it's such a powerful thing to think about time, especially as we get older. To think about how time works with our partners, how time works with love, and how time works with loss. And so for me, it's kind of the perfect way to think about it. And it's pretty great because you're able to do this, you're able to get your own clocks. This is a note that Felix wrote to his partner. And it says, do not be afraid of the clocks. They are our time. Time has been so generous to us. We imprinted time with the sweet taste of victory. We conquered fate by meeting at a certain time in a certain place. We are the product of that time. And it said that we are synchronized now and forever. It's such a great note. And so, I have my own clocks, and they're in my studio. And so it's one of those things for me, Felix has always been powerful in terms of his generosity, in terms of what he gives to us. And that's it. I'm totally happy to answer some questions. I also know that we're maybe a little tight on time. Any questions? My clocks? No. His clocks. His clocks were made in an artist edition of 3 plus an artist proof. And so one group of perfect lovers lives at the Dallas Museum of Art. It's not on display right now. And then another set of his clocks that was made specifically for MoMA were the ones that were imaged. And so those white ones are at MoMA there in New York. Mm-hmm. Yes?
Your abstract paintings, do you base them on any specific things? I know Dick Dobbins used to base a lot of his on landscape, contrasting to the landscape or natural settings. So do you have something like that?
Yeah, so my paintings are based on sort of magical moments that I places, usually people in places. And so for me, those magical moments where we feel a kind of full body pleasure, a kind of tinkle that fills our body, and we feel slow, and we can sort of feel the earth move beneath us. Those moments are really rare for me, and so when I have them, I make paintings about them. I try to break them down and dissect them and understand them. And sometimes those magic moments happen with other pieces of art. And so several pieces that I've made have been about Felix Gonzalez-Torres or Gustav Klimt or Richard Tuttle, other artists whose work moves me in a similar way. Yes?
Where do you live?
I live in Memphis. I live in Midtown. Real close to Overton Square.
Born here?
I was born in Knoxville, but I moved here when I was 3.
You sound terrific.
Thank you.
Really? But they didn't have the platform itself. They just had a photo of it. That's interesting. I've never seen or heard of it just shown by itself. Overwhelming amount of information. I know, it's a lot of stuff. Sorry.
That's all right.
Too much stuff. Too much. Okay.
Hey, I'm Rowan Mathias. I got my MFA at West College Art and never ran into you. I just looked up and say hi. I was there with she was over the grad program. All downtown. It's been that long. Oh my God. It's been a while. So I knew a lot of people that knew you. I just wanted to say hi.
We don't have that book anymore.
For Herman's, it would be a great thing.
Oh, no, I mean, they
read the grad program. Oh, that's right. That's what you're talking about. Yes, I did that. This is my card.
Oh, okay.
I'm a calligrapher/painter.
Okay.
Abstract painting.
Go up here and say that?
Say hi. Thank you so much.
What do you?
Yeah, slow down. Okay, that was easy.
You said you teach at the university? What do you teach?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
What's your name? Hamlett. That was great. That was wonderful.